Welcome to the Newfields Planning Meeting. My name is Jamie Thompson. I'm Chairman of the Commission. If each of the individual members could introduce themselves so we could our transcription correct.
Absolutely. My name is John Heaton. My name is Sean McGowan.
Catherine Tarnowski.
Bill Meserve, Jeff Feenstra.
Sue McKinnon.
Glenn Greenwood.
Thank you. Call this meeting to order. The first thing on the agenda is,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
yes, all due respect on 9/11 and sacrifices made since then, we take a minute of silence, please, sir.
a moment of silence. Thank you very much. I'd like to begin our meeting with the first item on the agenda, Copley Properties LLC. Two-lot subdivision, map 206, lot 9. Who's representing?
So yeah, where do you want just seated today? For them?
At the
You can
table so
stand
we
up,
can be
yeah.
heard.
Yeah. So my name is JJ McBride of Emmanuel Engineering, here with Dimitri Koval of James Barron Associates, the surveyor, and Drew Goddard of Copley Properties. Actually, do you have the
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up.
this one? Sorry if I jumped the gun.
There we go. Get that.
See if I can figure that up a little bit.
Yeah, look at that.
All right.
Good job.
So the subject parcel is at 104 Piscassic Road. As shown here, we've got Oaklands Road to the west and Bassett Lane to the east. It's about a 9-acre parcel that we want to subdivide, make 2 lots. Go to the next page. So there's an existing house on the lot. And so that would stay on that front parcel that we're looking to have there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right in there. So it's a 4-bedroom house. And so that front parcel there would be a little over 2 acres, so 2.003 acres. The back parcel is a little over 7 acres. Both parcels are over 200 feet of frontage. The one with the house is about 230 feet of frontage about, and the other one is 215. There's an existing driveway onto Piscassic that we were planning to have as shared between the 2 lots. So we're going to need a DOT driveway permit, and part of their requirements, they require 400 feet of sight distance in both directions. Because of that, there's some grading in front of the existing house that is requiring us to move the driveway slightly to the west. There's still going to be some regrading required along there to achieve those sight lines, but if we kept it where it was, there would have been grading onto the abutting property, which we have to do. So we had to move that over. Look at the next sheet. So on this sheet, we wanted to show that the radiuses, well, for the current one, is completely on the proposed lot, and then there's a theoretical one in the back lot that we're just trying to show that meets that, as well as a 4,000 square foot reserve area for septic. That shared driveway would also have a utility easement as well as a access easement for the back lot. Next. And this and shows sight lines, the profile of that shows a little bit of regrading there, as you can see. It grade on the north side of Piscassic there is pretty abruptly grades up, which hinders the sight line, and so we're proposing to kind of do a little bit of a cut on there to help improve the sight line, as well as a little bit of take it out a little bit of trees so that that's a safer driveway to pull out of. And then to the west, it's pretty clear. So nothing is required. I think that's all. Right now, I don't know if anyone's got questions.
Questions from the board?
Very limited comments on this.
Very typical.
Yeah.
So a couple of the things we'll need, a driveway permit, as I talked about, and then a state NHDES subdivision permit as well, which we'll be applying for.
I did receive today, I think the town did also, a formal report from RCCD verifying that of the 6 test pits, 2 did fail, but 4 passed. The 2 for each septic system that are shown within the 5,000 to 4,000 square foot receiving area are the ones that passed. So our inspection by Mike Cuomo verifies what they have on their plan. And that came through today.
Has the house been cited yet?
I believe so. Sure.
No, it would be in the general vicinity between the well and the 4,000 square foot septic reserve area. So that's the general vicinity, which keeps vegetation. Once you get behind that existing house, there's that natural vegetation. Will keep a really good buffer of natural vegetation between the existing hall and new hall, which would ultimately be sited in a location similar to around that wet proposed well septic area.
How about the scale of the house, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 square feet or multiple stories or?
No, I would propose, I'm not quite sure, because ultimately we could get a buyer prior to construction and they would dictate what they want to buy or build, which happens frequently, but if someone doesn't come along, we would build a spec home. Most likely somewhere between that 2,400 to 2,800 square feet, 4 bedrooms. That's kind of a good target for kind of a speculative build. But ultimately, hopefully we can find someone that has been looking to move to Newfields or stay in Newfields. And they can kind of dictate how big or small it goes.
The telephone easement, that exists, it's still active out there, they still have an easement out there?
Is that the one going pretty much right through the middle? Is that the one?
You showed approximate location of, 25 foot underground easement.
Yeah, we think located the node that we didn't find the release, no release located this time. So
So you think it's still active?
But it's still active.
yeah, because no release, so
Uh,
it's could be active too.
And a lot of times those utility easements are really just along the road. is once it jumps in to a jumper pole to service the house. Typically, sometimes there's not an easement because that's sometimes owned by that parcel.
In this particular case, isn't there an underground cable line that runs?
I thought previously we were told it was no longer, so it just continues right across the street. That's what the history was. Right.
For the new residence that would be built out back, we would go underground. Ultimately working with the power company, whether it would come off an existing pole on the main road or coming off that service pole that's on that parcel, but that's the electric company will ultimately tell us kind of what the power.
So will New England Telephone let you access over that easement with a driveway?
I believe typically, as long as you're not building structures, and they have access to any potential poles, I believe they're okay with that, is what my understanding is.
But you also mentioned what they need, granite bounds, right?
Yeah, the subdivision regs require a granite bounds for monumentation along the roadway. And that happens in block corners and points of curvature. So it looked like you had some along the front, right where you need to actually put granite bounds.
So we actually did have a question on that. Is that, so these are actually, I mean, I know it's intending to, there's a curve in the road, but there's straight lines. So is it still required for those, I guess?
That's the intention.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, it is still required.
And do you guys ever allow something a little bit smaller than the 6x6x4? Like, I was told that like a 4-inch 4x4x3 is a common bound size. I don't know if you guys.
Subdivision regulations, so the board is authorized to waive it, but it's been the requirement that they've used for
I don't think we've
a very long time.
ever waived it. I don't remember ever waiving it. Yeah.
Is there, what's the intention of the existing trails that are on that parcel? Would that just be closed off and?
Correct.
Any members of the board have any questions? Any other?
Was that John? It's forward.
Yeah.
Straightforward. It's really sure if the town planning board wanted to see prepared easement language for the shared driveway. And that paths.
We have. Yeah, I think we would want to see that.
I mean, that you could, that could be an condition of approval or not, but if you want to see it, the purpose would be to have it in writing and we'd send it over for Derek to review. I think that's pretty.
Yeah.
It's the single odd thing about their proposal. It's this shared driveway. Otherwise, there's very good.
Any members of the town that are here would like to say anything?
First of all, I don't want to sound like I'm objecting, I can't really hear what you're saying. What the shared driveway, could you just describe it? You've got the existing home that you're remodeling, and then you have the neighbour next to them, and then you have the pathway or easement going through the middle. Where's the shared driveway?
Yeah, you can see it here.
There's like this. Yeah, well, like,
Still.
I think that he's just. They're gonna look at that there.
Yes.
Maybe.
Oh, it's just peak.
You can get the full site this.
Thanks, sir. Just, yeah, yeah, no problem.
Take a look. State your name.
We have 25. The three other boards, just like the senior that is combining subdivision regulations and I'm asking for waivers.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve conditioned upon the driveway language and language getting reviewed. Do we also want to do it so that Jamie can sign it
Oh, I'll send it this way.
at the planning board meeting?
I'll second.
The DOT and subject to
The
DOT.
DOT, yeah, well, he's good.
Both DOT and DES. So.
Any other discussion on this?
Want to give that condition approval the time of 90 days or 180 days. Just
Where are you?
helps them along. Our regulations state that a conditional approval is good for a year. But if you say 90 days, it gives them something to do that to get stuff completed earlier.
So we'll add 90 days for all approvals, conditions met.
Where are you with the state?
We have not submitted to DOT yet. We've had discussions with them, but ultimately we wanted to make sure that lot lines, everything was going to jive with the board. But ultimately, hopefully JJ can submit that application tomorrow.
So if you run into delays, because I know sometimes you can with DOT, it's just, I guess, just send us something formally. Is that fair, Glenn?
Yeah.
You need an extension, just to.
Thank you.
As I'm on butter, I'm going to abstain from the vote, but all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Biggest planning board meeting.
There's nothing good on TV.
Okay.
Thank you. We're gonna.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's true.
Not this.
Glenn, do we have a CIP update?
There isn't much idea. No, I'm sorry.
I got a couple other things.
I did get something from Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Get that money. Glenn, just one quick thing on this. I was looking at the little 8 on page 8. It says planning board authorized by town meeting to prepare a capital improvements program. We don't have to go to town meeting.
No. You had to do that once, but you already did that.
We already did
You
that.
did that back in 1994 or something.
And just the other thing on that, the last box, we don't have a budget committee anymore.
No, you don't.
Good.
You don't. It's
Select board, just,
it's only the select.
It's just a comment you picked up and talked about the sidewalk studies. When I was a selectman, we actually went through the whole process, so you should touch base because we got bids on the whole thing.
Brian,
It was all, okay, yeah, it was all designed and set up to go.
so we do have that.
There's existing money in that account.
Yeah, I think it was 25,000 and then we never got money from Winkler from,
No, he hasn't paid.
okay. So we might have somewhere 30-ish.
Have we signed this Mylar?
There is no Mylar to date.
He has not done it. He has not closed it yet.
To get it done.
Is there a deadline on it?
Should have given.
The deadline is here unless we say something different. That way it is better to say something different, but I don't believe it's differently. Appreciate it.
One other thing I had, so Dan Foxbernack asked if he was all set with the septic information he sent us.
Hmm.
And whether or not he can move forward with producing a Mylar for signature.
Mhm. I have problems with the information that he's given us. Simply, and my biggest problem is, and I really needed to talk with you about this. The system they have is approved for 50 tables and 4 employees. And at that number, they come about 100 gallons per day under what they're allowed. I have to assume they have way more than 4 employees. And the employee count is 15 gallons per day per employee. So if they have 9 or 10 employees, then they're exceeding what was granted in 2000, whatever the date is on that.
Can I make another comment with regard to that?
So it's really, the problem is it's really close.
The septic plan and the loading also calls for only dinner service, and they serve lunch, dinner, brunch.
And events.
Restaurants open way beyond just dinner service. And is it 50 tables or 50 seats? Because the restaurant.
It's 50 seats, yeah.
The restaurant license currently filed with the state of New Hampshire is between 25 and 99 seats. So I have a big problem with all of it because I think there's some issues with the licensing and what the septic loading says in the report that he submitted to the planning.
I think from the licensing side, they break it out in those increments. Expecting that the septic system information has to support whatever their approval is. So I'm not as concerned about the fact that it says 99. That isn't really granting them 99. It's acknowledging that they're within that framework for that permit. But the septic system says 50 gallons a day allowance is precariously close.
That's 50 seats with dinner service only.
Right.
That's not what's happened.
Well,
Way beyond dinner service only. And it's as far, I'm confident it's going to be way beyond 50 seats.
And maybe that 99 is including all the outdoor seating.
Well, I don't know.
No, that's just the way the permits, that's just the way it's.
I think it's we have to feel comfortable that what is approved on the site is covered by the septic system.
So, can I make another comment with regard to the site? I don't think that they've adhered to their site plan with regard to the impervious surface and also the parking. When I go by that facility on 108 and look in, what we were told at our planning board meeting and what we approved was right in only parking on the back lot where the tent was gonna be. There's parking on both sides, the whole way back to the shed.
That was the whole idea for the fencing, was them backing out.
Well, it was just a barrier to
Right.
prevent people from backing onto the lawn. The Jersey barrier is frankly a little more aggressive than I think he needed to do, but my point is, it would appear there's a lot more parking going on than what was on the site.
That's the problem.
So that's a problem. I think that should be looked at and addressed, and I think that the stormwater management drainage calc should be considered as well, because in looking back at the stormwater plan that was submitted originally, there were no other, the stage, the patios, the bocce court, all the other impervious surface that now is there was not in the stormwater management analysis that was done originally. So I just feel like this whole thing is kind of gone in a direction that needs to be looked at somehow by someone, because I don't feel that it looks like I don't know. I'm just gonna stop talking.
Just a second, Toby.
I just wanted to offer, one of the restrictions, and I believe it's in the DOT driveway cut, is that when there's a wedding, there can be no events that mutually exclusive with the restaurant. I don't have the document in front of me, but there is a restriction in there. And if they have had one wedding event, I believe, and they also are open. And I believe the DOT cut prohibited that, which would expand the opportunity for overriding septic system just by the numbers on that issue.
Glenn, would it be appropriate, in response to his current request, to get an accurate seat count of what, if it's 50 seats, to get an accurate seat count of the number of available seats in the restaurant? And I think that's something we would need to know to be able to respond.
Yeah,
Along with this, the actual number of employees.
that's what I think we have to have.
We can't do anything until we know.
The information on both those fronts. But to your point, John, if they are in non-compliance with the site plan, as we've agreed with them, that we should be telling them that as well.
What, so should somebody go out there and,
Be with them.
well, or you go out and review, this is different than what the site plan shows.
Not even with them, just maybe.
Go out and see what the heck's going. Yeah, I mean, I, no matter how I try to understand the septic capacity meeting the standard, I can't make.
It was so close.
It was, well, because it's so close, I don't think it really is that. I think that it's been exceeded in a way that the house can't be used as a house. That takes away so much of their capacity. When you eliminate 600 gallons of their capacity, it really limits the thing that they're trying to do there as a restaurant.
Well, and not for nothing, but the house can't be used as a house unless it gets a variance to go back to use
Yeah.
for residential. It's been converted to commercial use.
That isn't what we told them.
That's exactly what we told them. The house is it's a retail office building with an apartment.
Yep.
That's what the planning board approved.
I thought we said if they could show that the capacity was not
Something
exceeding.
about number of bedrooms.
Hmm.
He wanted to relocate the dwelling, the one dwelling into the main part of the building, what would have been the house, but is the retail office space. Keep it the one dwelling, but he wanted to increase the number of bedrooms from one bedroom to four, or how many ever he could fit. That's my recollection of the conversation.
My recollection was that if he wanted both, he would need a variance, but
Yes.
that he could choose one or the other. The condition that the septic can handle what he wants to do.
What he wanted to do.
He reverted the building back to a home and used it for residential, that the full business septic use plus the home use had to be met by the load that it could carry. And if it couldn't, then it would be a no. But as long as it wasn't two dwellings, he could switch the dwelling from the garage to the house.
I thought we had.
That's what I thought the conversation
Oh,
was,
so
that
anything
two
further,
dwellings
he'd
would
have to get
require a
variance.
variance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's, but ultimately it was the septic issue
It
boiled down to.
is the septic issue that's gonna be the driving force here. And if he wants to do the house, I think that makes the entire thing unworkable.
Well, and if he's figuring 50 seats for dinner, and now he's serving lunch and brunch and events,
At the same time
right?
as the restaurant being open.
That's
So
not-
then there's seats at the events, there's people sitting.
No, even if they're separate, I mean,
Yeah.
it's approved for 50 seats at dinner. He's putting additional.
Yeah.
Meals.
But John, one of the things that happened with us was the septic regs had changed over the years too. it's actually increasing how much you need it. So that you go back and put that calculation, and that's what he needs to do.
So can I ask a question with regard to the use? Because again, when the prior owners came before the planning board, they abandoned the use of the house, the house. And we approved a tasting room and office space with an apartment over a portion of what is the garage, I guess. So from that point forward, it became a retail office use with an apartment. And I'm just wanting to understand how we just turned the house back into a house.
We allow residential use.
Yes, but but residential use has to conform to residential guidelines and zoning. So I don't know I don't know what the frontage acreage, all that information is for that lot. So it's different for commercial use. Commercial use is only 50 feet and 2 acres. I don't know. It's 200 feet and 2 acres for residential use. So I'm just confused by what I thought I understood to be from the very beginning of this whole conversation, Mr. Prostock, about the fact that he couldn't just turn the house back into a house without seeking relief from zoning to do that.
That isn't at all my recollection, Jim. My recollection was we told him if he was going to do that, he had to come back for site review. And during the site review process, we said, if the septic system allowances don't permit both the restaurant use and the 3-bedroom home use, it couldn't work.
Wasn't that the reason we requested the septic information?
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I hate when John didn't look at me that way, but he looked that way. And so I know what he's thinking. And I just don't think that's what we were telling.
I mean, just,
Talking about this meeting, I'm talking since Mr. Prostock has been to talk to the planning board, he has had conversations about wanting to turn the house back into a house, like from day one, even before we did the initial approval for site review of the restaurant. So, and it was just my understanding all along that in order for him to do that, use had to change from the commercial use of the building to residential use, which required him to get relief. If you're telling me that's not true, then okay. But from several meetings prior to now, that's been my understanding of what that process is. If it's not, then I guess I'm mistaken.
Okay, I'm thinking you're mistaken. I'm thinking you're mistaken, but it kills me to say that out loud, so I'm tempering my response.
John, it's just, that in this, on page 2, it says, a motion was made by Mike Price and seconded by Sean to conditionally approve the site plan amendment, providing a notation is made on the plan indicating the existing septic capacity and depiction of where the approved living area will be. All were in favor and the motion carried.
Understood. No, meaning I grasp what took place. I'm not, again, specifically talking about the last meeting. I'm talking about every meeting from
The original meeting, we did bring up the variance. We had that conversation and he was moving away because of the process, to go forward. But
I think the original meeting, he wasn't even going to have, he was just going to use it for, if you remember that. So.
We've had a lot of different things happen.
Yeah, the shifting experience.
So it sounds like Glenn's going to go out, take the site plan and say, yeah, this is different.
I'm happy to do that. I would just as much like to have at least one planning board member with me.
I'd be happy to go with you.
Just because I'm not the building inspector, I'm gonna have to call, get his permission to do it. And I'd prefer not to be the sole person.
Be happy to
Can
go.
you just recap what you're gonna ask for in terms of data for septic load?
Yeah, we need to know what the restaurant use is, so that we need number of employees, we need number of students,
And serving,
and we need.
Meals.
serving time.
If that, to see if that has any bearing on the state licensing, which I will have to check.
And the septic load,
I'm sorry,
the septic load.
and the septic load, yes, yes. Well, they're not gonna give us anything different on the septic load. They're going to still refer us to the existing system and what its capacity.
I think it's probably worth it. So if you're gonna make a data request, put in the request whether or not there'll be events happening at the same time the facility is open. Just so we have all the data.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Those things, then.
Yeah.
Or even if it's in place of, what's the typical number it might be? In other words, if they're seating 50 for dinner, but they're serving 150 at an event, that's gonna put it out of whack.
Don't forget, he's got porta potties there as well. And I think he's got two porta potties there, for the outside folks. And I specifically remember talking about the septic plan. I think with the engineers, Jones and Beach talked about this, about how they weren't going to be using dishes. They were going to be using those trays. So they wouldn't overload the dishwashing. That was part of, and I think that's in the actual engineered plan for the septic.
And that sounds all well and good.
Yeah, no,
But the fact that they got 29
Yeah.
porta potties out there
Mm.
doesn't, I mean,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, we hit the limit. You guys got to hit, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that can be included.
A couple of porta potties
It's not gonna be-
really don't provide much relief.
Like, I know he said when he was gonna do events, he was gonna bring in porta potties, so.
Seems like the data requests.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you available during the day?
I am. I'm free.
That's very helpful. So John, please stop looking at me. This is the mug of the wrong. Well, I'm used to your mug, but I'm not used to that look of displeasure. It's not this. There it is. You have to sit here. And you sit over there.
Is there any follow-up on the gas station lighting?
There has been follow-up, but the follow-up is, they're convinced that they're, and I want to meet with them, but I want to meet with them at night. And I have not given them that time when I can meet with them at night. But
You need a second person with you?
yeah, actually,
Glad to.
I never like to go by myself. So if you're the appointed person,
Glad to go.
I'll give you a call. Because they're firm and the minutes support us, so. There has to be some sort of understanding.
So I was looking in the file at the diagrams, and one of the diagrams, I think it was like page 3, that shows that lighting in the little track, and they call it down lighting,
They do.
but it's not actually down lighting. And so if that's their perception of approval, because it was on the drawing described that way, and it was approved based on the drawings, how it appears is still a violation of the zoning ordinance, because it actually looks backlit like a neon light.
Right.
And it's not necessary for downlighting because there's nothing to light in that spot. And all the downlighting that's there for drivers to pull up to the pumps is perfect. It's very bright.
And works just for bicycles.
There's no need for that. And so it was mischaracterized on the drawing at best and could just be unplugged.
And it was,
Anyone?
it was discussed exhaustingly.
And it is shown in the minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
It is shown in the minutes from my perspective, although they read the same minutes and think it says something else, so.
Well, especially when we went through this with Irving and they just complied and you can tell the difference when you go by the two stations. You can see it. Yeah.
And they said repeatedly, it wouldn't be changed.
Yeah.
That's also, so when you go, their proposal would not change the appearance of the lighting. And the appearance of the lighting did change.
When you go, just make sure you go around the back of the canopy, because the back of the canopy does not have the LED downlighting. So you can see very clearly.
Notice it.
So, yeah, what is the matter?
Took a photograph of it and sent it in an email to everybody too, in case you haven't seen it.
Yeah, they need to advertise on the backside.
All right. Anybody have any other business to bring before the board?
Can we just start making a list of things that we need to work on for September? Because I know you talked noise at the last meeting. We need to do something with ADU. Because that it's coming up. I mean, we always seem to be in December, we're going crazy. I remember the year we had to come in here in the middle of snowstorms. So are you going to start working on the noise in the ADU maybe next month?
I've already started with you because every one of my towns has to do it. We're all faced. So that will be the one I'll get to first.
Is there anything else we talked about that we needed to modify?
We
I know.
need to consider what we're going to say about multifamily in commercial zones. Because state law was passed that says we have to do it. And we only have a one-time meeting to come up with some sort of response. That's the deadline for having that provision in some manner is July 1st of next year. So we have to do something at town meeting.
And that law for the multifamily, that wasn't tied to municipal water and sewer.
It was as far as density, but not as far as use. It was just stated that multifamily will be allowed in commercial zones. It did say if your commercial zone is, they didn't use the word whittled, but if it includes a lot of uses that are antagonistic to residential use, then you can use that as a reason for limiting it. And in the town of Brentwood, that is very much the case. For much of our in Brentwood, it's a commercial industrial zone. So on Pine Road, you really can't have any housing out there. It's all heavy industry. But along 27 and 125 in Brentwood, we have to figure out what the heck we're gonna do. Because we're going to have to allow something by next July 1st. And every town is going to have to do that by next July 1st.
I bring up one other thing, Jamie. A couple years ago, 2 or 3 of us were accused of closing our eyes to the fact that certain people weren't making meeting attendance. So where were we at? Because I think Jeff Kuchar hasn't been here for several meetings. So is there a limit? I think at one point we had 3
I think that's what it is.
that we had. If you missed 3 in a year, that's it. Because we were, this was during the time when, we had an ill member and we were getting, talked about. And so I think let's be responsible. That, we were ignoring him and we all knew what was going on personally with him. So, but is there, I think it's,
I believe it's in our rules of procedure.
I think it's 3. If you miss 3 in a year.
Rules of procedure.
Yeah.
So
Within a calendar year.
that's what you should go by.
Yeah. So, do we say somebody, either Sean or Mike Sin, who becomes full-time member? Or do we have to go through some process or?
Okay, here's where I would suggest that we communicate with Jeff and see if he wouldn't just prefer to resign, step down. In light of the fact that he must be so busy that attendance has been difficult.
Hmm.
Because then it's clear that you have just an action by a board member to resign. And you take the steps that the planning board is authorized to take to fill up an empty position.
Has anyone heard from Jeff? He's not coming to the meeting or anything to that effect? I haven't heard from him.
It's been a couple of months since
I know he resigned his position at the Conservation Commission.
Can Sue just do a check for like the past 12 months and say, I just pass, yeah. Because I know I took an earful from 2 or 3 people and we did it before, so I don't want it to happen again.
I mean, the rules of procedure are, I believe they're clear enough that you can just make a determination at a planning board meeting. You should have the information, so we should get that, the year attendance for everyone. And then make a motion, but it's meaner from my perspective if the person resigns.
But I guess the question back then was, it had occurred and why wasn't that member removed? And it was just like, and he was ill, you know what I'm talking about. So now it's just like, if he comes back and says, no, I still want to be on the board, well, the rules of procedure say no, we're not paying attention to the rules of procedure.
Yes.
The rules are in there, so
Maybe, please, or shall be.
it's how I say, who's gonna do it? Jamie, Glenn, Sue, have a conversation with Jeff and just say, are you interested or not? Like you said. I mean, if he says no, then obviously that's that. If he says yes, then obviously you're gonna need to explain
I mean, she can have an informal, and if it requires a formal, I can send the formal, you're being removed.
If he wants to stay on the board and he's had some circumstances that him to attend meetings, it would be nice to know and communicate that, and then going forward, just understand that if you miss 3 in a calendar year, you're subject to removal, and just leave it at that. But somebody needs to reach out to him and ask him if he's, whatever's happening.
And at the same time, make them aware of the regulations. Yeah.
I consider I have a good relationship with Jeff. I'm happy to talk with him about this. I think that would be prudent. Do you need a motion to do that, or just? No, I think we're doing this
Formally, and if it requires formal, I'll letter and we'll just,
say do it.
and then appoint one of the alternates.
Yeah.
Full time, and then go back to the select board and get another alternate.
I have 2 items if you're ready. Talking about the noise issue. And that has the potential to become a factor here very quickly. And the clarity that is not present on page 11 of the regs regards residential agriculture, because we have, and I talked about it previously a little more, but I want to go into the again just a little bit. We have commercial investment, we have industrial, we have commercial, and then we have residential increases, including all the family structures. But where does residential agriculture fit into that? And I can see that hair being split, so I think it would behoove us to have some clarity before that hair attempts to be threaded through the needle, because this has the potential to become an issue.
We can't do this until town vote.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I think there might be some history here that would offer some knowledge and insight. So maybe some corporate history or knowledge, and if you can appreciate why I'm asking, because if I have to take a position or the board has to take a position, then we would like to have a firm foundation and standing upon. So any corporate knowledge floating on this issue, I totally understand the point of changing this and waiting to go through the process. As far as changing the language of in the document come March, but I guess we're saying we're looking for some guidance, some corporate history, some knowledge. Is that it? Was that succinct enough? So I understand you've got some other projects, but I need some help.
What's the other noise? There's a noise ordinance in town.
You know, there's no there. And all that does, it's on police statutes and all that does disturbances and certain looking for guidance to be guards is on the page. Since that you might say clear enough.
No.
Okay. Then I do have it on.
Exactly, cool.
Past two select board meetings, we have discussed compliance in terms and conditions, notice of decision for the farm back in December of 22. One of the issues on there and what precipitated this was counsel for the farm representing they had complied with the terms and conditions of the notice of decision. One of the items that has not been complied with is item 9, requiring the vegetative buffer be installed between the farm and 319 Viscasset. And I don't have the verbiage in front of me. I apologize, but basically it will be a result of the abutters at 319 and satisfaction of the planning board. The town received an email today from Vernon Family Farm that they had bought the plantings and they were in the process of installing it, even though it started in December of 22. However, there is no record that can be found other than that language I just referenced of what the vegetative buffer should consist of. I've been through all the minutes of the planning board meetings back to January of 21. And the only thing I really found there was in October of 22, Vernon Family Farm shall install a vegetative buffer to the reasonable satisfaction of the previous owners or successors along a portion of the common property boundary line between Vernon Family Farm and the Sweat property, abutting property, and commit evidence of the same to the planning board. The reason I bring this up is the planning board has been very succinct and clear in their requirements, such as Gary, we're going to have you put arborvitae's of a certain height and certain density on the property line, as was done with the case with the post office and the veterinarian clinic. So now I'm unable to find a chart or a diagram referencing this as to what is required. And I think it's behooves the town one to ensure that it's done to the satisfaction of the planning board and to the abutters. And if we had a document that showed what the plan was, such as with Garvey or the post office, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But now it's very nebulous and tenuous, and it's like, do we plan, we see 1 2-foot arborvitae and another one 10 feet later down the road? Or do we pursue what the initial intent objective was, but does not seem to be documented? So that's another.
The driving force for that was satisfaction of the abutters. And it was thought that discussion was about long before now. But that's why we included that in that approval.
And it was included to preclude the headlights and everything coming into, entering into the parking area. And there's history behind that, why that issue was never raised with the abutters. But I still think it behooves us because that was under the terms and conditions of the approval. And now that the property has changed hands, it still does minimize or diminish or denigrate the requirement for that to be done. And so whether or not the voters have said, we want this or we don't want that, with the new property owners have only been there, 2 weeks, I believe. It's still, I think, behooves the town to ensure this is done in the proper manner that the board may have contemplated, but I am unable to find documentation either with a diagram, plot plan, or whatever, or in language specifying what was done. And I think if we don't do that, we're setting a precedent where things can just go whichever direction they want, and the town loses its control and its authority of the planning board.
So Hobie, to make sure I understand what you're suggesting, you're saying that whatever was done at the post office, you think is, you're saying whatever was done at the post office, you think some way develops a standard that should be applied?
I don't know.
How it was applied to them. I'm trying
So the point I'm making is that the planning board has a history of setting specific terms and conditions of vegetative boundaries. Just like the most recent one with Garvey, when we had that long discussion, well, we got some pine trees, now it's a bunch of scrub. And we're gonna require you to put this, everybody's in 2 feet apart or 2 feet high or whatever the specificity is of the board.
Yeah, specificity, I guess my comment is with the board is important, but also having judgment to fit the appropriate nature of the property is extremely important too. And the language that we applied, maybe we're not doing the proper level of enforcement or validation, but the language seems to support the planning board having what would be a reasonable review of whatever vegetation is applied. If somebody puts something 10 feet apart, I mean, you just don't want to get overly prescriptive.
No. Then let me rebut that, because when you set out with Garvey, if I recall, from that meeting, there was great specificity about the planning and the everybody on the Garvey property, between that and the property that Brian. And I don't disagree with that, but I think we need to be careful that we don't have sufficient specificity that we can say you are complying and not complying, and just go, well, we don't think you're complying. They go, and the other party goes, well, we think we are, and then there's nothing to fall back on. And so at that point, it's kind of like fire readings.
I get where you're coming from, but it seems that that's discussion already took place. And fortunately or unfortunately, that is as specific as we got.
I think what it said is to the approval of planning board. And I think
And the butters, and I get that.
we started to get into discussion at the hearing and it was just like, let's do what we've always done.
But my
And-
point is, I don't think without all the parties present, we can go back and demand further specificity.
I'm not debating that point, Mike, in any way, shape, or form. The only point I'm making is there's a lack of specificity, there's a lack of clarity in the plan, and it's left a huge hole there. And I think it has the opportunity to fail to meet what the intended board was. And if,
Well, if they're,
I'm sorry, I'm finished. Yeah, go ahead.
if what we are being faced with right now is the Vernon Farm saying they have their plan for that landscaping, we should
Look at it.
look at that landscaping and let them know whether we think it's appropriate or not.
Sure.
Recollection of seeing plan with plans at some point in the process, not necessarily at the site plan modification that took place in December of 22 or whenever that was, but prior initial plans, we talked about access into the field and headlights and all that kind of stuff. I recall it being a plan that showed plantings at the end of the field. And I don't know when.
And John, the only point I'm making is, like I said, I went back to January 21, looking through the minutes, and I saw nothing as specificity other than the paragraph I read. Yeah, and I checked the diagrams, it's also what I could find, and it's planning board, I'm just saying that there's a hole here. And I think the planning board has established an intent. But how do you follow up with an intent?
You should probably reach out to them and
Yes.
ask them to describe to us what they're doing. They're saying that they've already purchased the landscaping materials. It's not out of the realm for us to ask them what it is they're intending.
And has anybody talked to the abutter? The new,
butter?
yeah. Okay,
The point of the
yeah, pretty good.
Which doesn't remove the requirement for vegetative buffering. Because when the fence gets hit by a tree coming down, those headlights are still gonna come through.
Zero.
And it isn't, it's just a matter of, we set a standard and we adhere to that standard, and we don't allow a precedence where we've allowed it to fall through the cracks, and then the next individual comes up and goes, well, you didn't enforce that.
It was Nicole that sent me the letter saying
The email today, yes.
So it's very reasonable to think about the effects of that.
Should,
But it seems very reasonable to think about this comment in regard to maybe providing more specificity on future activity. Unless there's a real specific level of intent, low bushes, dramatically bad plan. I think it's an overstep for us to be defining the landscaping standard. I think we need to, if it's an unreasonable thing and we look at it, we should make that determination. And if we want to be more specific in the future about height, size, and type of plantings, we should consider that. But going back to something from 2022 that you've already stated seems like a process problem.
Oh, I agree completely. I see what the future maybe should hold, but that's the future, and this is, we're stuck with what we did. So,
And they just need to finish the process, which was to get a butter and planning board approval. So,
right, whether it's a mistake or not.
yeah,
Whether it's
so
a
we
mistake or not.
need to bring them back in. We need to
Right.
have, and come in and say, this is what we're doing, and we
You
can
need-
we can determine whether it's reasonable. That's correct.
Glenn, where does it fit that we're 2.5 years later and we're still talking about meeting of conditions of approval? Is that acceptable? Or, I mean, if anybody else can,
have we pursued it?
I don't know. This up is like,
I think we didn't pursue it.
But that doesn't mitigate the fact that the requirement exists.
I'm not arguing that at all.
Yeah.
I'm saying that we can, our case to say they should have done it earlier if we weren't telling them they should have done it earlier.
well, it was kind of, it was taken away from the board and given to the select board to enforce. We're not out there enforcing it. So you're looking at me saying we didn't enforce it. So who should have, should we drive by? And I don't go by and say, yeah, the septic system's in at this house, or this condition's been met.
I was not intentionally saying you didn't enforce it. I was saying, if in fact we have a condition that we are interested in seeing fulfilled and we have done nothing about seeing that fulfilled, when an instance like this comes up, our case is weaker, but it doesn't go away. Our case is those are the conditions of approval. And the conditions said, meet the satisfaction of the planning board and the abutters. And if we're now being told that their intent is to complete this condition, we should let them know that we consider it important that they get the sign off that was part of the approval.
And it would have been a lot easier had there been within the documentation, either both in the minutes and the discussion. And unfortunately, they're all pencil drawings from the farm. So but there's nothing that can be found referencing that as opposed to having a formal mileage or whatever, which would have made this a lot cleaner in the process.
But they're gonna come in with a plan and we're gonna look at it, and reasonable minds are gonna come up with a solution.
And in response to an email, because there's been an email saying there's an intention to finish that.
Right.
And then.
Bring in your plans and we'll approve it or not.
Sure.
And they bring it in and it's good, let's move on.
Sure.
I think, as a general practice and just the ones that we've had difficulty with, the informal stuff is really coming back to bite us a lot when we're letting people come in with pencils and non-professional drawings like we have with, the.
Well, you're right.
Running River.
It's a very odd circumstance. You're talking about agritourism and agricultural uses. It's a really, you saw the commissioner of agriculture came in and said we were being evil. It was uncomfortable and a difficult process from the get-go. We don't typically do that with commercial enterprises.
Well, wait a minute, commercial, this is not a commercial.
I know, and therein lies why this ambiguity exists. But it doesn't, I'm not by any means advocating that we don't tell them we feel that our approval of what they do out there is necessary. It's part of what we condition.
Part of the plan.
Yes. Yeah, so we just need to follow up.
But here's, you know, Jamie, you were sort of indicating they need to come and talk with us. That isn't gonna happen for a full month. It also puts the planning season a little bit deeper. You can still do things in October. But I would say that perhaps the board should say that they will look at it at a select board meeting, a joint meeting with the select board, instead of waiting a month before we even look at this. If their intention is to plan, telling them they have to wait a full month into out to October, maybe isn't the best way to see it.
No, his plantings would all die.
Right.
I mean, if he's got them sitting there, he's got to plant them.
Right. And if there's an air of criticism that they took too long to do it, then we tell them to wait.
Right.
That's a mixed message probably don't want to be sending. So responding to the email seems to be the most efficient thing to do first and ask for them to describe their specific plan, what size, what distance. Maybe they will answer in the email something that we can work with and.
To include a diagram of drawings. And I think that's a very, to me, a reasonable request. Please send to the planning board a diagram with specificity as to what you're planning, how tall it is, how far apart, et cetera, et cetera. And that can solve the problem.
And what you're planning to do to comply with section 9 of the conditional approval. So they're forced to reread that we said there would be agreement between all parties.
So that would include that they've gotten, they've in contact with the abutter and the abutter has approved their plan.
I think the abutter needs to be included on the email as well.
I think the butter
The
need,
conversation really has to be with the right.
right, I don't,
Not with the plan.
Yeah.
But the planning board has to job, whether it is.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
That's what our attorney put us in. He wrote that condition.
and I don't,
We were trying to solve it that night, but he didn't.
Mhm.
Let's put it off.
And walk on some really thin ice here.
but I don't think your butters could be approached by the Vernons with their plan. I think they need to be at that meeting as well.
And I'm just curious because my planning board experience is limited in regards to setting conditions precedent or a deadline for compliance with these type of requirements. Just so I'm just throwing that out there.
You absolutely can.
Yeah.
I think if we're gonna also start to try and be more specific for going down this road, we should look at what type of plants they are and then understand what that plant will do over so many years.
Sure.
It's very smart to plant a smaller plant. You'll have a much greater chance of surviving. And it will grow over certain seasons and will have certain spread and certain coverage. So like this is where get a specific one, that there's judgment. Are they generally going after something that is meant to create the appropriate buffer in a reasonable amount of time? And do these plants support that? Is the question you should be trying to answer. Not as everybody happy day one. It may be the end of next growing season.
Plan of action is
An email response requesting that they provide the town a diagram, some sort of exhibit.
and a description of the plan.
And then that will go both to the board of selectmen and to planning board members.
Do you want it to get more better than?
The butter.
Like the report from the planning. Or a joint email.
How does the board want that?
Where did the email go to? Did it go to the select board?
It should literally come from the board of selectmen because
That's not-
we're separate from this.
The email went to Sue. So
Sorry.
the email from Nicole went to Sue. That got forwarded to us.
Yeah. And the plan, to the planning board and the select board. So that when the select board will draft it, CCU.
Okay.
Any other business?
With that being clear, do we feel like we know what we're doing?
Yeah.
Still getting the most. I'm in hospital, look for John all night long. It's like,
I just want to hug it out or.
I feel like I need to hug it
How
out.
about the minutes?
Did we just get those? I didn't have a chance. Did
You want to table the minutes?
everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? On table into next month?
I want to approve now, but
Do you want to check?
I don't care.
Do you guys get a chance to read the minutes?
Yes. Okay. Look at the fire.
That's right, you're fine. Did I write you down as being that?
Yeah, you did. You get kicked off the. I know. Even if you're dying.
Rocky didn't read them, Bill.
Wait, say. Sidewalk. To approve, anyone?
Did it?
Like a motion to approve as written. All those in favor? Opposed? Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
8:12. 8:12. No, you, just a new lawsuit, remember that.
Jargon. And it's so hard to define.